Hello, I'm Bruce Zimmerman, and this is the Open Line Garden Show podcast for this week. Now, one of the most popular perennial groups is hostas, but they're not number one. They used to be, but now daylilies and heucheras have basically surpassed them in popularity. So you've got the top three right there in perennials. So if you've got a good collection of each of those in your garden, then you're really on top of things. And there are a great way of mixing them together. You can mix them together, particularly the heucheras and the hostas, because of light. So the daylilies really like the sun, so you might get away with infringing on them in the light dappled shade and with the other hostas and coral bells or heucheras. Heucherellas, which are a genetic cross between two different groups, the tiarellas and the heucheras, are also sort of included in that group. So there's not that many of them, but there's more and more of them, and they seem to be getting quite popular. Let's concentrate on hostas. Now, let's start with their care. Basically, they do like moist soils, they do like organic soils, and they do like shade. There are some of the hostas that take a little bit more light than others. You can check out my website. There is a list there of hostas that do take more sun. The more sun they get, the more water they demand. So mulches will be important, particularly on those. Now, many of the hostas taking the shade need color or shape or size in order to contrast with other plants that you may have there. One of the beautiful things is that there is such a wide range of shapes, colors, and sizes in the hostas. And, of course, we all know Big Daddy, which is your big, big blue. And it's going to be, 2 feet tall. But the leaves are slightly corrugated and, of course, very, very pretty. Then you've got things like the obliqua drinking gourd, where the puckered cups are basically corrugated and they are shaped so that they can capture water and you could drink out of them, which is how they get their name. You get the old varieties that have been around like forever, like Oreo marginata. So there's a lot of them out there. And of course they do come in different colors and shapes. And you can have some of your favorite subjects in the fact that you could go and, let's say, there's one called Atlantis, or there's Elvis Lives, or there's Beach Boys, or, there's a whole bunch of them that you could have sort of a style or a garden of your particular love of, let's say, music or other subjects. So take a look at those. Atlantis is an excellent one in the fact that it's 32 inches high, and it's got these dark green leaves with a wide golden margin and a soft lavender flowers. So you got the flowers even in the shade. The Blue Angel's a smaller blue than Big Daddy. It's only going to be about 32, but it's a smaller leaf and very pretty. It also has nice white flowers and a lot of them, which I do like about that one. Blue Ivory is an excellent variety. It's got the blue leaves with a wide, creamy white margin. In the summer, the margins brighten to a white, and the center turns to a blue-green, and it's got lavender flowers. That's a lot of color and contrast that you could be using in your shady areas of the garden. One of my favorites of the little guys is mouse ears. Now, mouse ears, any of the mouse ears, there's variegated, there's blue, are really cool. They're very small. They're basically a very symmetrical plant. The leaves are sort of rounded, though they're slightly pointed. And they flower in early summer, and they're very, very small and compact. They're only going to be about 6 inches high. And I know my mouse ears, 6 inches would be an exaggeration. So you've got these things that can give you shape, color, and texture right down to the edge of a pathway or a walkway. It's in the shade. Cherryberry, I like this one in my garden, and the reason I like it in my garden is it's got the colored stems. So you've got the long, pointed, slightly wavy, green and, well, I'm going to call it white, creamy white centers, but the red stems on the flowers really do make it. And they're really quite tall so that they are showing well above the foliage. And so you've got the red stems, violet flowers, the green and white foliage, and again, a compact plant only to 10 inches high. That's kind of neat. Brother Stefan really turns my crank in the fact that it's 20 inches high. It's very heavily corrugated. I like corrugated ones, okay? I'm biased. It's a golden yellow leaves. It's surrounded by a wide green margin. Very thick and strong leaves. Now, very thick, strong leaves are usually an indication that they are more resistant to snails and slugs. And so that's probably a really good one to put into your garden if that's an issue. And, of course, the near white flowers on that one. I think that one is going to be like the Hosta of the year for 2017. So you may want to take a look at that. Remember, 20 inches high and with all those great assets. That's called Brother Stefan. So you probably want to put that one into your garden. There's a newer one out called Dream Queen. Dream Queen is 16 inches high. It's a medium-sized growing hosta. It's got a creamy foliage, and the blue margins are they're more of a dusty, foggy, the Blue Ridge Mountain blue. So it's not a sharp blue or a strong, hard blue. It's more this sort of foggy blue, which is good. It's sturdy, it's round, it's got the blue-green leaves, and they've got a nice ivory white center. There's a whole line of green and whites, First Frost being one of them. And then there's also the Fern Line and Fire and Ice. And okay, so they're all about 14 to 20 inches tall. They all have that, but they all have a different variegation. You could put all three of these together and still not have boredom, because they are that different in their variegation, even though they're all green and white. They got a little blue in them, they got a little green in them, they're a little different shaped leaves, and of course a little difference in height. So you put Fire and Ice first, and then of course Fern Line and First Frost. And the three of them together would make a fabulous collection right there. Just three plants. Kind of nice as well. Christmas tree is one I've grown for a long time. It's vigorous, it grows, it's a nice variety. It's got the large green heart-shaped foliage with the creamy white edges. Lavender flowers, it's going to be about 18 inches tall. Has a tendency to be a little more spready than some, but I do like it. It does fill a corner very nicely in my quiet garden. Forbidden fruit's kind of interesting. Here is a hosta that is a sport of orange marmalade, and that means it's got an interesting color. It has thick leaves. What do we say about thick leaves? With glowing golden yellow centers and a blue-green border. Again, lavender flowers, and it's going to be 24 inches tall. That is, as you can see, there's a lot. Francis Williams, you all know, huge leaves, variegated, corrugated, easy to grow. Great Expectations is at one time was a very, very, very expensive hosta. When I first got it, I had to think twice about the cost. And it's been around for so long that the prices have come down nicely. It's one you want to add into your garden simply because it's 18 inches tall, does a nice job, and it is very, very pretty. And would go well with any of the other variegated or a contrast to the blues. There are a number of others with slightly different shapes, like Hands Up or Praying Hands. These are vertical held leaves that, they look like praying hands, or they're variegated and they're twisted and they're long and they're thin. They got thick leaves, but they are really interesting in the fact that they have to be divided asexually. They can't be bred. June is one of the greatest hostas in my garden. Does wonderful. Divide it. Give it to friends. Let it spread out. Put it here. Put it there. Fill space. It is 14 inches high. It's creamy centered foliage. It changes to chartreuse with blue margins. The blue margins are more of a dusty blue. Lavender flowers, very compact in its habit and easy to divide and grows vigorously. You're going to be liking this one if you need to fill up or make some friends. Okay, because it is a great, great hostas. That's just a few of the great hostas that are out there. Take a look at Rainforest Sunrise while you're at it. And, of course, the night before Christmas if you want a real contrast in variegation. Are there new ones coming out? Yes, look for Sweet Innocence as well. And Tutti May is going to be different as well. So there's a whole bunch out there that you're going to really want to take in. And, of course, you've got to have in your garden yellow polka dot bikini. Now, we're not talking about the clothing. We're talking about the hosta. And trust me, it's going to be cool. 16 inches. And it is a sport of strip tees. It's a bright yellow margins. It turns to an apple green with white lines dividing the center and margins. Cupped leaves, flattened out later. Lavender flowers. Kind of cool. Definitely different. And that's what you're looking for. I'm Bruce Zimmerman. This is the Open Line Garden Show podcast for this week.